live in interesting times. Today's stories. NATO chief is, quote, extremely concerned after attacks on Saudi. Saudi coalition says the weapons used in the Saudi attacks, quote, came from Iran. President Trump says it is, quote, certainly looking like Iran is behind the Saudi oil attacks. Venezuelans display hundreds of migrant shoes against xenophobia. Venezuela's GUAIDO says Maduro runs away from the mediation process. Finland begins fishing plastic ghost nests out of the Baltic Sea. Lily, Thailand's Greta Thunberg wages war on plastic. Dozens of tigers are dead after confiscation from a Thai temple. Plus, we will take you island hopping to Molokai, Hawaii's friendly isle. This is Eagle News, broadcasting from New York, and I am Jennifer Polintan, bringing you stories from around the globe. NATO Chief John Stoltenberg said Monday he was extremely concerned about escalating tensions following strikes on Saudi oil facilities at the weekend, accusing Iran of destabilizing the region.
And we strongly condemn the attack on civilian oil refineries in Saudi Arabia. I've been Minister of Energy in Norway for some years, and I know how important it is to have credible, stable supplies of energy to the global energy market. And we will monitor the situation very closely, and we call on all parties to prevent any such attacks occurring again, because that can have also negative consequences for the whole region, and we are also extremely concerned about the risk of any escalation.
Stoltenberg, who said the alliance strongly condemned the attacks because of destabilizing effect on oil supplies, also had a message for Iraq's neighbor Iran.
We are concerned about what we see, especially from Iran. Iran supporting different terrorist groups, being responsible for destabilizing, those activities destabilizing the whole region, and also the Iranian missile program, and all allies of course agree that Iran should never be able to develop nuclear weapons.
The strikes on Abqaiq, the world's largest oil processing facility, and the Kurseis oil field in eastern Saudi Arabia have roiled global energy markets and sent prices spiking. Houthi rebels said they carried out the attacks with 10 drones, but American media have reported the U.S. officials had satellite images showing the attacks, possibly with drones and cruise missiles, had come from the north or northwest rather than Yemen. The Saudi-led coalition on Monday said its preliminary probe had found Houthi rebels were not responsible, while squarely pointing the finger at Iran for providing the weapons used in the attacks. Saudi coalition spokesman Turki al-Malki said weapons used in Saudi attacks, quote, came from Iran during a press conference in Riyadh.
استمرت التحقيقات ولا تزال مستمرة من قبل الجهات المختصة في المملكة العربية السعودية. كانت القوات المشتركة أيضا مستمرة في هذه التحقيقات مع الجهات المختصة، كافة الدلائل والمؤشرات العملياتية وأيضا الأسلحة التي تم استخدامها في الهجوم الإرهابي سواء في بقيق أو في خريص تعطي دلالة مبدئية أن هذه الأسلحة هي أسلحة إيرانية.
Al-Malki told reporters in Riyadh, quote, the investigation is continuing, and all indications are that weapons used in both attacks came from Iran, adding they were now probing from where they were fired. The Tehran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen, where a coalition is bogged down in a 5-year war, claimed Saturday's strikes on 2 facilities owned by state energy giant Aramco, which sent shock waves across markets. But U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has pointed the finger squarely at Tehran, saying there was no evidence the, quote, unprecedented attack on the world's energy supply was launched from Yemen. Maliki said, quote, "This strike didn't come from Yemen territory, as the Houthi militia are pretending," adding an investigation was ongoing into the attacks and their origins. He labeled the Houthis, quote, "a tool in the hands of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards and the terrorist regime of Iran." Trump has raised the possibility of military retaliation after the strikes, saying Sunday that Washington was, quote, "locked and loaded to respond." Oil prices rocketed on Monday after the strikes on BALTIC, the world's largest oil processing facility, and the Khurais oil field in eastern Saudi Arabia knocked out nearly half of the top crude exporters' production. U.S. President Donald Trump said Monday that Iran was likely behind strikes on Saudi oil facilities, but he wanted to be sure and he hoped to avoid war.
Have you seen evidence, proof that Iran was behind the attack?
Well, it's looking that way. We'll have some pretty good, we're having some very strong studies done, but it's certainly looking that way at this moment, and we'll let you know. As soon as we find out definitively, we'll let you know, but it does look that way.
The president said, quote, "We pretty much already know, and certainly it would look to most like it was Iran, but that Washington still wanted more proof." Trump told reporters in the Oval Office, where he was meeting with Bahrain's Crown Prince, Salam bin Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, quote, "We want to find definitively who did this. You're going to find out in great detail in the near future," he said. "We have the exact location of just about everything." Trump said, quote, "With all that is being said, we'd certainly like to avoid war." Trump said the United States would be talking to Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and many of the neighbors out there that we're very close friends with. A group of Venezuelan activists display hundreds of shoes belonging to migrants in a square in the Colombian capital as a way to draw attention to issues that affect Venezuelans and to call for an end to xenophobia.
Tenemos un deber de abrazar a nuestros hermanos migrantes, refugiados y colombianos retornados. Que la xenofobia no puede ser campaña política. No podemos jugar con los sueños de una persona que tuvo que dejarlo todo.
Probablemente aquí hay zapatos de personas que empezaron con un sueño, pensando que iban a mejorar, que iban a llegar a Bogotá o a cualquier parte y no pudieron lograrlo pues porque en el camino se encontraron con demasiados tropiezos.
Meanwhile, Venezuela's opposition leader, Juan Guaido, challenges President Maduro to tell everyone why he broke off the Norwegian-mediated dialogue after Guaido announced yesterday that the country's political crisis talks are over.
El régimen se para y sale corriendo del proceso de mediación llevado por el Reino de Noruega. Que explique el usurpador, que explique a Maduro cómo esto no es una solución sensata a la crisis que hoy está viviendo Venezuela, que hoy vive, que expusimos a través de los diferentes mecanismos que tiene que ver con la creación de un Consejo de Gobierno de transición plural, equitativo, de todas las fuerzas políticas del país y que lo contenga también, que lo compongan la Fuerza Armada Nacional. Esto implicaría, además, por supuesto, la salida inmediata de Maduro y mi separación del cargo hasta una elección presidencial real.
Venezuela's government said Monday its deputies will return to the opposition-controlled legislature, which they walked out of 3 years ago, hours after opposition leader Juan Guaido announced that reconciliation talks had broken down. Communications Minister Jorge Rodriguez said, quote, "In the interest of deepening and extending the dialogue, the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, or the PSUV, and its allied factions will return to the National Assembly." Deputies from the ruling Socialist Party walked out of the National Assembly in 2016 after losing control in elections, and the government set up its own body, the Constituent Assembly, to sideline the opposition-dominated body. Guaido, the Speaker of the National Assembly, early this year, declared himself interim president with the backing of the United States and other Western powers, saying elections that returned socialist leader Nicolas Maduro to power had been undermined by fraud. The National Assembly has maintained its composition of 112 opposition lawmakers and 55 government loyalists, although a number of opposition members have either been jailed, gone undercover to avoid arrest, or fled the country. On Sunday, Guaido said that talks aimed at resolving the country's political crisis had ended, more than a month after Maduro broke off the Norwegian-mediated dialogue. Maduro called off the talks, which were initially held in Oslo, and then moved to Barbados on August 7th in response to U.S. sanctions against his government. Guaido has demanded that Maduro step down to clear the way for elections, but Maduro has refused to budge, insisting sanctions be lifted and blaming the country's spiral into economic and political chaos on a U.S.-directed conspiracy. Alluding to Maduro, Guaido said, quote, "Those who usurp power have prevented a peaceful exit, refusing to discuss and accept a sensible proposal made by our delegation to put an end to this conflict." Guaido's team said it is in favor of any solution that would end the suffering of Venezuelans. Up next, Finland begins fishing plastic ghost nests out of Baltic Sea. Lily, Thailand's Greta Thunberg, wages war on plastic. Dozens of tigers are dead after confiscation from a Thai temple. Plus, we take you island hopping to Molokai, Hawaii's friendly isle. Eagle News will be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News, and I'm Jennifer Polentan. Finnish environment authorities have begun a project to trawl the Baltic Sea and remove abandoned fishing nets known as ghost nets, which continue to trap fish and other wildlife. Plastic fishing equipment disintegrates extremely slowly in the sea, and the UN's food body claims ghost nets constitute 1/10 of all plastic waste in the world sea.
About the project, so it's a pilot project in Finland, and we are tracking the ghost nets. And the ghost nets, you know, they are abandoned directed fishing here. But fishermen, recreational fishers or professional, they've lost their gears in the sea. So we have tracked a bit more than 300 kilometers, and I would say that we might have something like one kilometer of nets. We have to first check our results, analyze the results properly, and then come up with the conclusions, and then I can tell exactly that if what is the how wide is the problem here.
Gliding through a dirty Bangkok canal on a paddleboard, Lily fishes out rubbish in her mission to clean up Thailand, where the average person uses 8 plastic bags every single day. After a painstaking hour-long routine picking up cans, bags, and bottles bobbing in the canal, the bubbly 12-year-old said, quote, "I am a kid at war. I try to stay optimistic, but I am also angry. Our world is disappearing." Thailand is the 6th largest global contributor to ocean pollution, and plastic is a scourge. Whether it's for wrapping up street food, takeaway coffee, or for groceries, Thais use 3,000 single-use bags per year, 12 times more than someone from the European Union. In June, Lily won her first victory. She persuaded Central, a major supermarket in Bangkok, to stop giving out plastic bags in its stores once a week. She said, quote, "I told myself that if the government did not listen to me, it would be necessary to speak directly to those who distribute plastic bags and convince them to stop." This month, some of the biggest brands, including the operator of the ubiquitous 7-Eleven convenience stores, pledged to stop handing out single-use plastic bags by January of next year. Mindsets have started to shift this year with the deaths of several marine mammals whose stomachs were lined with plastics, stirring emotions. The demise last month of a baby dugong was mourned on social media, reviving discussion in the government over a proposed ban on most single-use plastics by 2022. But critics say, along with new rules, there needs to be enforcement mechanisms such as fines. For now, young activists like Lily can help capture attention.
Greta is really important to me because what she symbolizes. She says that kids can make a difference. She wants everybody to do something, and she got so many people together. I'm trying to enforce a lesson onto the Ministry of Education, a lesson about the environment. It is hard, but I like to be positive about it because there's always hope. We can always fix something. If there's a problem, we fix it.
Blaming genetic problems linked to inbreeding at the once money-spinning tourist attraction, park officials said Monday more than half of the 147 tigers confiscated from a controversial Thai temple have died. For years, the Wat Phaluang Tabuak temple in the western province of Kanchanaburi pulled tourist hordes who could be photographed for a fee next to scores of tigers. But in 2016, park officials began a lengthy operation to remove the big cats amidst allegations of mismanagement and claims the creatures were being exploited. Dozens of dead cubs were found kept in freezers, sparking claims the carcasses were being sold by a temple rumored to have raked in hundreds of thousands of dollars each year from visitors. Tiger parts can fetch enormous sums in China and Vietnam, where they are falsely believed to have medicinal properties. Park officials told reporters the surviving adults were taken to 2 breeding stations in nearby Ratchaburi province, but only 61 of the 147 have survived so far.
มีปัญหาเรื่องของพันธุกรรมโดยสภาพตัวสัตว์เองที่มาจากจำนวนต้นพันธุ์ที่น้อยที่มันส่งผลต่อสุขภาพตัวเขาเองทำให้ร่างกายเขาไม่สมบูรณ์อ่อนแอ
Many suffered from tongue paralysis, breathing problems, and lack of appetite that led to fatal seizures. Suthorn Chai Watana, another department official, said, quote, "Most of the tigers were already in distressed states, stemming from the transportation and change of location. Later, their health problems emerged."
จำนวน 85 ตัวนะครับแล้วก็ตายไป 54 ตัวนะครับก็คงเหลือ 31 ตัวในสถานีเพาะเลี้ยงสัตว์ป่าเขาทับช้างเนี่ยเป็นเสือที่มาจากวัดหลวงตานะครับจริงๆก็มีเสือโคร่งอื่นอยู่ด้วยนะครับอีกอันก็คือสถานีเพาะเลี้ยงสัตว์ป่าเขาสนเนี่ยรับมา 62 ตัวนะครับแล้วก็ตายไป 32 ก็เหลือ 30
Legal cases against the temple are ongoing. Conservationists questioned whether the authorities have looked after seized animals appropriately with small, cramped cages enabling the spread of disease. Tens of millions visit Thailand every year, and the lucrative wildlife tourism industry has grown in step with visitor numbers. Hawaii correspondent Alfred Asenas recently visited the island of Molokai, which is the closest to Oahu. There, he will give us a brief tour and highlight some unique features about this small island getaway. Take a look.
How's it? We're gonna go island hopping to the island of Molokai. Right now we're here in an aircraft called a Cessna. It's a propeller aircraft and it's a very short trip, about half an hour. So strap for your seatbelts, get ready for this trip. Here we go. As you can see on the far right edge of your screen, this is now the western part of Molokai Island. It is almost a half an hour into our flight, and some have approached us and asked about, hey, why not build some sort of a tunnel or a bridge or causeway of sorts to connect all these islands, especially between Oahu and Molokai? And the simple answer is that this channel right here, this body of water, is a critical passageway for marine life, especially humpback whales around this time of year when they migrate between here and north of the Pacific Ocean. Right now, I believe they're at the tail end of their feeding and breeding nursing season here, here in Molokai and especially in Maui. So any kind of infrastructure that's placed in between could compromise their natural environment. The island of Molokai is located between southeast of Oahu and west of Maui. Being the 5th largest island in the Aloha State, Molokai is more than twice the size of Staten Island, New York, or about the size of Guam. But with a population of just slightly above 7,000, Molokai is often described as the most Hawaiian of all islands because of its predominantly agricultural and natural environments. We should be landing at Molokai's airport any minute now. I believe we're looking at the center portion of the island, and As we notice, it's mostly lush green, not a whole lot of civilization, if you, so to speak. It's as if we're going back in time to the old days of Hawaii, full of lush fields, mountains, obviously no freeways, nothing of that sort that's already typical in Oahu.
Molokai is a friendly isle, and people are really very nice when you meet them, and that's why I love to stay over here. Molokai is a peaceful place, and there's no traffic lights, and there are plenty deers in the road when.
Oh, plenty of animals.
No, the deers. You can meet sometimes 20 deers in when I'm going home at my place, and I can meet, and then they eat my plants. The deers, yeah.
About a 15-minute drive north of Molokai Island's airport is a peninsula that literally sticks out like a thumb on the map. Named the Kalaupapa Peninsula, it once served as an area for those afflicted with Hansen's disease, more commonly known as leprosy, in the 19th century. We hitched a ride with Theda, a Honolulu resident who was also visiting the island for an event and some relaxation.
The best thing about Molokai is, it's a good time for you and your family to just plan for a weekend trip here, relax, just kind of really take your time and just drive around and see the beautiful spots here.
We're gonna head out to a famous lookout here on Molokai called Kalaupapa. Let's check it out. Just into this trail, this reminds me of another trail on Oahu called Kuli'o'o Ridge in East Oahu. You got your pine trees here and a rough trail with roots sticking out, and at the end of this trail you're gonna have a breathtaking view of the ocean and everything else that's over there. After much effort in walking the rugged trails, we were finally welcomed with a cemented sidewalk that led us to the breathtaking views of Kalaupapa. Several markers highlight the location's history and significance. So, for a quick getaway from the hustle and bustle of Honolulu, why not take the time to visit Molokai Island and the Kalaupapa lookout trails? While there may be positive features about Molokai Island, there are some notable drawbacks as well. Residents here have to greatly depend on Oahu and other places outside to sustain their lives and livelihoods.
Prices of commodities are high because, of course, they ship it over here and it costs more. And there's no McDonald's or Jollibee. So every time we go off islands, we go to Burger King and Jollibee and McDonald's. And prices of gasoline are high. We just have to deal with it because we have no choice. The commodities are coming in through barge like that. So we just have to live our life. But it's a peaceful life. I like it here.
Later in the day, we headed back south to Kaunakakai, Molokai's largest town. This is also home to one bakery that makes one of the most sought-after bread in the entire Aloha State. Meanwhile, Molokai resident Lynn shared her experience about life on this small island.
For me, it's simple. My bayanihan, especially for the Filipino community, it feels like home in the Philippines. Well, this is a friendly isle, of course. It's always known as a friendly isle. But we are always welcome people to come and visit the island.
Other attractions on Molokai include Papohaku Beach Park to the west and Halava Valley to the east. places that, at least for yours truly, are definitely worth visiting in the near future. So we hope you've enjoyed our little tour of Molokai, the Friendly Isle. Reporting from the island of Molokai in Hawaii, I'm Alfred Asenas, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Alfred. That is today's Eagle News. Join us again tomorrow for Weekend Edition. Visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. I am Jennifer Pollentan and I am 1 with 25.